Good morning. It's November 28, 2022. It's a Monday. Welcome to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, thanking you for joining us today on this Monday morning. It is bright and sunny here in Capitolio, Pasig. And sabi nga ng misis ko, mukhang beach weather yung suot mo. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Thank you also to PLDT for their home fiber internet na asahan kahit saan, whether we are in Lipa, Batangas, whether we are in Baguio. Oh, by the way, greetings to the Manor Management at John Hay Manor Hotel. And thank you for all of you who are subscribers of Cignal TV. And of course, those who view us even on Facebook and on YouTube. Maraming salamat po. Let's get our day started with our daily starter. And it goes, if you don't leave your past in the past, it will destroy your future. Live for what today has to offer, not what yesterday has taken away. And I found that Daily Starter very interesting and I think very useful for many of us to consider. When I recently went on a trip to Davao with my wife Karen, I made the decision to be present in the moment during that trip, because many times, even when we're supposed to be on vacation, when we're supposed to be in a meeting, or even when we're supposed to be doing something, our mind drifts, or we think of many things, we try to multitask, and at the end of the day, we're not present. We are physically there with our wife, with our children, with our associates, but mentally we are somewhere else. And it's not respectful to those around us, and it is not a good practice. Now, same thing with what I just read with the Daily Starter. The past is the past. Pinagdaanan mo na, no point in repeating it or reliving it. And even those of you who still try to remember your old loves, nako po, 30 years ago pa yun, and if you see them today, chances are they don't look as dreamy and as hot as they used to. So leave that in the past. Be happy in the present. There are even those who say, stop thinking of the future. The future will get to you sooner than you expected. Okay, so that's our Daily Starter. Live in the moment, live in the present, enjoy what is before you, experience what you're going through, and deal with what you're going through. Whether it's good, hard, difficult, just deal with it and live in it. Okay, so let's now go to the front page of the Philippine Star. And here we go, in keeping with the coming Christmas holidays, which actually are here already. The headline of the Philippine Star today, DTI studies price hike petitions. Okay, the DTI is now going to be studying price hike petitions submitted to the department, according to Trade Secretary Alfredo Pascual. And about 25% or 55 stock keeping units, SKUs, out of the 218 SKUs categorized may see possible price increase. Yan, sa madaling sabi, expect na. Hindi naman yan unexpected. Expect prices of commodities, of goods to rise in the next 3 weeks at the very least, because this is that time of the year when businesses, traders, and vendors try to recover or make the most in terms of sale and turnovers. Because the truth of the matter is, business, in spite of all the hallelujahs that are being said in the reopening of the economy, business has been hard hit. Meron po kaming pinupuntahan mall First floor, ang daming sarado. Second floor, ang daming sarado. Third floor, ang daming sarado. Most of those closed are the high-end shops. So clearly, people are not being frivolous. People are being really careful with their money. So while we can expect price hikes, be wise with your purchases. Okay, at the top of the front page, the header, Senate must be part of the Mutual Defense Treaty Review, according to Senator Win Gatchalian. But of course, because that is in the law, that is, I believe, even in the Constitution, that the Senate is the primary body that engages rights and basically rolls out what should be in treaties entered into by the government. So hindi po yan pwede. It is not a simple matter of one president speaking to a prime minister, to another president, etc., and then they just shake hands on it and somebody writes the details later. No. The Mutual Defense Treaty involves many serious matters, including decisions to take part, support, or be involved in a war of the other country or in defense of the other country. So the Senate, which is the premier legislative body, has to be part of it. Okay, for those of you who were thinking of going to Divisoria today, the coming days, and the next week, warning, look at this picture at the top of the front page of the Philippine Star. Yan po, dikit-dikit po ang mga tao sa Divisoria as usual. And as expected, the Western Police District or Manila Police has increased police presence because when shoppers abound, pickpockets, mandurukot, snatchers, and scammers abound. So you may be thinking, and I'm not trying to discourage people, pero please, if you are thinking of going to Divisoria, try to make sure that you are physically fit, that you wear face mask because wala nang social distancing, and as much as possible, limit your time in the area. I remember during COVID when we had to really needed to buy something from a specific shop, we did an in and out in 15 minutes. Mas matagal pa yung biyahe namin sa sasakyan kesa sa time namin dun sa Divisoria. We went to the store, got out, and left the area because it's just really still a threat. COVID-19 is still a threat, and if you are like a senior citizen with comorbidity, let's not play Russian roulette, okay? Meanwhile, for those of you who love salmon belly, who love sinigang na salmon, who love pampano head soup, okay, your days are numbered. Hanggang December 4 na lang. December 4 is the deadline where public markets will be allowed to sell salmon bellies and pampano heads, which actually are trimmings. Kumbaga, yan yung mga parte ng mga isda, ng klase ng isda, hindi nabebenta sa ibang bansa. These are the trimmings removed from fish fillets from other countries and shipped to the Philippines because we love soul food. As some of my American friends would say, man, you Pinoys love soul food. You love adobong atay ng manok, balun-balunan, etc. So the BFAR, and I think the DTI has declared that the sale of pampano heads and salmon belly will only be allowed in public markets up to December 4 because they are directly competing and outselling local fish products, and it is hurting the Filipino fishermen. So, konti naman pong loyalty to the Philippines, konting patronage to our Filipino fishermen. Let's buy Filipino first. Okay. And like I've always been saying, be careful of dengue. Okay? You may not be getting COVID, but you could get dengue. In fact, when I last went to Lipa last week, there was an increase of mosquito presence. And it seems the DOH has come out with data, dengue cases and deaths surged by 191% lang naman this year. Okay? So ayan po, no, napakataas ng dengue cases. Most of them in Central Luzon, followed by Calabar Zone and also Cagayan Valley. Okay, may and Zamboanga Peninsula. So please, our viewers of Cignal, wag na po kayong magtipid kung bibili lang kayo ng mga UV light zappers, yung mga parang tennis racket, and then cleaning around your homes. Please do it. I am paranoid about mosquitoes, and every floor dito sa bahay ko, meron akong mosquito zapper. And kung nagtitipid kayo, bilhin nyo ng timer na galing China. It goes on in the morning, in the evening, and goes off at break of dawn. Okay, so yan po, no, mataas ang dengue, and mind you, people are dying from dengue. Hindi po ito kaso ng na-dengue ka, okay na. No, people are dying from dengue. Meanwhile, teachers, workers press for pay increase. Okay? From mounting various protest actions these past days, workers are gearing for more this week to pressure the government to heed their demand for an immediate wage increase, as one group criticized as worthless the pay hike being promised next year. Okay. Yan na po, kumbaga, hintayin pa ang ang silbi ng damo kung patay na ang kabayo. Those of you who are young, you probably never heard that, pero malalim na kasabihan po yan. And then, second booster required before bivalent vaccine. You may have heard that a new vaccine has been formulated abroad, and this is supposed to be a multiple COVID type vaccine, meaning it can address many subvariants, prevent many subvariants of COVID from infecting you or hitting you. Now, the DOH said you must first have the second booster. Siya nga naman, you have the 1, 2 initial, and then you have the third and fourth. But kung wala ka pa nung second booster or na vaccine number 4, hindi ka pwedeng mag-bivalent kasi para kang tumatalon. You are skirting the process. So it's not a good move. And that is the announcement from the Department of Health. Okay. And 60 more NBP dead buried this week. Huwag po kayong mataranta. Hindi po nagkarayot sa NBP. There were no new recent deaths at the National Bilibid Prison. New Bilibid Prison. Hindi na nga new yan eh. Luman-luma na yan. Okay. 60 more former inmates na nakalaya na at nakailord na. Their remains were buried this week. Okay. And that photo in the lower part of the front page, senior citizens from Marilao, Bulacan, selling bags and Christmas lanterns made of newspapers, plastic bottles, and other recycled materials as part of the livelihood program initiated by Rotary Community Corps. Okay, now, last but not the least, TRO on South Premier Meralco deal worries BBM. In case you didn't hear about it, the Court of Appeals issued a temporary restraining order on the Energy Regulatory Commission's decision not allowing the South Premier Meralco Group from raising its rates because of the uncontrolled rise in fuel, etc. And what's happening is that ayaw i-recognize ng ERC yung petition ng South Premier Meralco because a contract is a contract according to them. So the two companies went to the Court of Appeals and tini-RO ng Court of Appeals. Now here's the thing. Malacanang came out with a statement that President Bongbong Marcos is worried about the effects of the TRO and if South Premier and Meralco are allowed to increase the rates, baka masaktan daw ang madlang people. Pero ang tanong, si BBM ba talaga ang nagsabi nun? Kasi yung mga terms, deleterious, etc. Parang hindi niya lingwa yun. So I have a funny feeling it's a press release. Okay, so that's all we have for the front page of the Philippine Star. Abangan ang mga kabaratang darating. And of course, please read the Philippine Star. And we will go for a break. And when we return, we go to our regular interviews, hopefully. Okay, let's go for a quick break. Okay, welcome back to the program agenda. And let me start by saying that there are many news items, many issues, and particularly in politics that always makes the headlines, the front page, or news programs. But there are also issues, concerns that never quite make it or are given much time in the news or in programs that are near, dear, and close to the hearts of many Filipinos. They affect many Filipinos. And today's topic is a continuation from last week. Because last week, we invited a very well-known, very popular, and very qualified lawyer to guide us through some questions regarding families and inheritance, etc. And apparently there were many more questions from many more people. So pati OFW, pati mga hiwalay na nabalitaan yung program. Sabi, Cito, you have to do it again. You have to do it soon so we can. So for the sake of public education, we are once again going to cover the topic of separation, inheritance, how to declare your missing husband dead, etc. We will now reintroduce my the one lawyer I am scared of. Okay, Gabriel, bring out the Betamax and roll it.
Attorney Lorna Kapunan's extensive legal expertise includes licensing, international humanitarian, entertainment, and family law. Aside from this, Attorney Kapunan is an advocate for women's and children's rights. A product of UP College of Law, Kapunan has garnered several recognitions, including the Outstanding Women Alumni Award from her alma mater.
Okay, Tito Lawrence, welcome back to the program. Attorney Lorna Kapunan, good morning, and I'm sorry to drag you out of bed again.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me again. Cito.
Okay, yeah, now let's go straight to the program before we run out of time again. There were a lot of topics we covered last time. You talked about illegitimate children. You said children that come out of relationship, second family, or there is no official recognition to the child, is entitled to 1/2 share of an inheritance. Now, you also said that illegitimate or partners, I don't know what the official term is for them, don't get anything because Philippine law does not recognize second relationships even if the first relationship is publicly deemed totally failed or non-existent. So sabi mo, they have no rights to inheritance.
That is correct, Cito. No? Because basically, we must be reminded about the Philippine Constitution, no? Which is, yun ang Biblia natin in terms of the law. The Philippine Constitution says that the state must support the family as a basic social institution. Mm-hmm. And so all legislation stems from that. No? Anything that does not support the strength of the family is abhorred. So direct to your point, what about those who are not in a legal relationship? The term there is either, concubine, no? Mm-hmm. Concubine, mistress. Under the law, they have no inheritance rights. Not only inheritance, no, because inheritance is defined as the passing off of property after the death. During the lifetime naman of the paramour, no? During the lifetime of the husband or the wife, it could be the wife, no? Mm-hmm. Because let's not think na babae lang ang mistress. Pwede ding lover yung lalaki, no? It goes both ways. Mm-hmm. Kung meron kang donation to them, they're considered void under the law. So you cannot donate. So you'll say, baka i-question ng mga anak ko to pag namatay na ako, ibibigay ko na lang sa'yo. But if it can be proven later that the person, the paramour, the mistress, or the lover could not have afforded to have bought the property, kasi there's only one way you can go around that. It's through a sale. Either a sale or that person had the capacity to buy it himself or herself. No? Then that donation is void or can be questioned. So,
But
unless Cito, no?
yeah.
The law also recognizes common law relationships, in which case it is not a conjugal partnership, it is a co-ownership. But as the term suggests, the partner who claims na co-owner siya must claim na nag-contribute siya sa property, sa pagbili ng property.
Okay, could you help us with that, Attorney Kapunan? Because ang dami ng mga terms mistress, concubine, etc., etc. But this thing about common law partner, you're living in together, I suppose that's what they mean. But does common law apply to someone who was previously married, or you have to be single but not married, therefore common law?
Well, first of all, the concept of common law is wrong, no? Because we're not a common law country. It's
Meaning?
Just that, well, nasanay na lang tayo to say, hindi naman yung asawa common law lang yan, no? There are situations where, well, first of all, let's start with a marriage. If a couple living together are not married, then there is no marriage, and all children are illegitimate from that marriage. Okay? It is marriage which really defines the legal rights and obligations of the parties. Let's say you're married and you left that marriage for another relationship and started living in, whether 10 years, 30 years, it still is not a valid relationship because the law does not recognize this type of relationships unless the first marriage is severed. There are many ways to sever, no, to break up a marriage, no, especially in this country. We have invented many terms kasi wala ngang divorce, as I said during our last program. But we have what is called declaration of nullity of marriage. There is only one ground, which is psychological incapacity. Psychological incapacity is a generic term yan, Cito, no? Which, because you cannot enumerate all the causes of psychological incapacity. So the law says, the family code says, failure to comply with the essential obligations of marriage. So let's go to what are the essential obligations of marriage. You have, of course, self-respect. No, well, respect for your partner, no? Respect for the dignity. So if you abuse your partner or you're violent against your partner, and there are many kinds of violence, no, under Republic Act 9262, which is the domestic violence law. Kasi pag iniisip natin yung violence, iniisip lang natin physical violence. There are actually 7 kinds of violence, Cito, under the law. There's physical violence, there's emotional, psychological, there's verbal abuse, there's emotional, psychological, there's and
sexual abuse.
Obviously there's sexual abuse. And we added to that economic abuse.
Yeah, economic. I was about to say that. Economic abuse, yung
failure
withholding money.
Okay. Yes, withholding money or failure to give support. So if your spouse, now it's a criminal case. It can be a criminal case, not only a civil case for support. Pwede ka mag-file for couples, for mothers or wives listening in. If your husband or the father of the family fails to give support, you can file a criminal case for violation of the domestic violence law. Kasi mas matindi yan kesa yung civil case for support.
Okay,
But
so
anyway,
you
so
go, yeah, go ahead.
going back to my premise, anything outside of valid marriage is illegitimate because of the catch-all phrase, not only in the Constitution, in the Family Code, that says anything contrary to law, public policy, and morals is void. So you have Article 36, yung tinatawag na Declaration of Nullity of Marriage, but there is also which effectively has the same effect as divorce. No, the marriage bonds are severed. The woman is entitled to go back and use her maiden name. The property relationship is dissolved. But it's very important. Some people say, paano yung mga anak ko magiging illegitimate?
Yeah, actually, we have that question here. After an annulment, do the children who were born during the marriage have the same rights as legal children, or do they become illegitimate?
No, the children, even after an declaration of nullity of marriage, remain legitimate. And that is why in an action for nullity of marriage, one of the effects of that is that the court orders that the property of the spouses or the former spouses is already given to the children because of the danger of a second family. In other words, there already is, it's as if you died. It's as if you died. So yung property mo that was divided, there must be in the order of the court what goes to the children from the father and from the mother. Because they remain father and mother, you know?
Yeah.
They're no longer husband and wives, but they're still parents of these children in a failed marriage. So
yeah, but how much of those? Sorry, Tita Lorna, how much of those properties go to the children, and how much do the couple individually retain? Kasi nag-annulment ng marriage, lahat ba turnover sa mga anak? Or teka, 60-40 ang hatian dito?
Well, it depends. It depends on the couple, no. But normally, titingnan ng court if the child depends also on the situation of the children.
Kung minors.
If they're minors, they get bigger. No, you have to provide for their education, medical, etc., etc. If it's just inheritance rights already. So, if the couple do not provide for this, the marriage, the annulment is declared void.
You're in violation of the provisions of the annulment.
Yes, then that annulment is also deemed void. And you cannot get married again. Magulo, no? Well,
pinaghiwalay, biglang pinagbalik.
Kasi hindi mo pinalo yung inheritance, yung portion allotted for the children. Now, the question is, many think that if you are the psychologically incapacitated spouse, you cannot get married again.
Huh?
That's common misconception, no? Paano kung psychologically incapacitated ka for marriage? How can you get married again? Di ba? But the law says and jurisprudence says, no, that's not the case. What it means is that you were psychologically incapacitated for that particular marriage lang. Maybe your spouse brought out the worst in you, or maybe in a subsequent marriage, you are reformed, no? And the reason pala, Cito, let me just say, the reason that the court requires that you distribute to your children in an annulment case is because if you get married again, you'll have other children with another spouse. So that is another relationship because they don't inherit. The children of a second marriage do not inherit from the first marriage, should not inherit from the properties
They
of the
don't
first
benefit.
marriage.
They don't benefit from that relationship.
So that's
Only-
why it's only the second, only their parents. No? So that is why it is clear that so that the line should be drawn.
Mhm. Okay, so you've cited psychological incapacity to engage in the ritual or the requirements of the marriage. But are there any other? I'm just being funny here. Is there any other way out for some people? Because I remember being told that if someone disappears for 7 years, completely no contact, a presence unknown, no address, no contact with relatives, you can have that person declared as dead. And maraming ganyan, yung mga OFW, one case here, OFW a few years after nag-abroad, wala na, disappeared. And they're asking, can we have him declared or her declared dead?
Yes, Cito, you can have a person declared dead, no? And under the new family code, it's no longer 7 years, it's 4 years. Pinaikli nga, no?
Mhm.
But it depends, no? Whether dead under exceptional circumstances or dead or just last known address unknown, have not been heard of.
Mhm.
Kung death under exceptional, let's say sundalo ka, nakipaggera ka sa Mindanao, no?
Mhm.
And then namatay ka sa battle na, let's say, sinunog yung katawan mo. So, hindi mangyari, or you're missing in action, then that is death under exceptional circumstances.
Mhm.
So, the waiting period to be declared dead is even shortened. I think, if I'm not mistaken, to 2 years. No?
How many?
Shortened
Two,
to 2 years.
2 years, okay.
Tapos
Under exceptional circumstance.
Or nasa barko ka, lumubog yung barko mo,
Mhm.
hindi mahanap yung katawan mo, no? So it is not clear whether you're dead or alive, but you're presumed dead. There is a presumption of death, no?
Mhm.
So that's very easy. You don't need to go to court. It's just a notarized document.
Ganun lang kasimple. But because there is something to substantiate your claim of
Yes.
extraordinary circumstance. But what about those people, husband or wife, and this is happening a lot abroad for OFWs, etc. They disappear. No contact, no more support, no child support, no spousal support, etc. Meron bang option yung naiwan sa Manila? In fact, I just spoke to a Grab driver the other day. Sabi ko, kamusta ang asawa mo? Ayun po, nag-ibang bayan na, nangapit bahay pa. So, but, he's just left it at that. So, but according to him naman, the wife supports the son, so okay lang sa kanya. But what about husbands
If the wife
or wives?
supports, if there is support, no?
Mhm.
Miski nawala na, if there's support, hindi pwedeng presumption of death.
Okay.
The fact that nagbibigay ng support, may taong nagbibigay ng support,
Yeah.
that means buhay. Hindi
Pero
pwedeng
kung wala na or nalaman mong may ibang pamilya na abroad or somewhere else, what?
mag-file na siya ng annulment, either mag-file na ng annulment, because ngayon, the good thing about annulments now, it used to be very expensive.
Mhm.
Until, I'm talking about church annulments. There are two kinds of annulment. No? Let's be clear about this.
Yeah.
We have separation of church and state. Okay, unlike England, same, no? The church and the state are one and the same. Why is this very important? It's very important because people think that if you get a church annulment, okay na yan sa legal annulment. No. What is important is the legal annulment. Ano yung legal annulment? Yung legal annulment, magpa-file ka sa court. And the court says your marriage is declared null and void under Article 36. No? That's the only way to dissolve a marriage in the country, is a legal annulment. Why do people get church annulment? No? A church annulment, Cito, has no legal effect. Even if you go to a church and you get your church annulment, because in fact this latest Pope, Pope Francis, who's really an activist Pope, has said the church should make it easier for couples, especially if they're victims of abuse or an abusive relationship, to get a church annulment, and admonished all parishes to give free church annulments. So ang daming nagpapa-annul sa church na kasi libre na ngayon. Does that have legal effect? The answer is no. Walang legal effect ang church annulment. The reason couples get a church annulment is so that they can get married in church again if they want to get married. So advice ko lang, miskin na may church annulment, you have to get a legal annulment. Yung may legal annulment ba, kailangan ng church annulment? The answer is no. So it's the reverse. Yung may church annulment, kailangan legal annulment. Court proceeding yan. Yung may legal annulment, hindi kailangan ng church annulment if you don't want to get married in church again. But if you don't want to get married in church, I mean, civil ceremony lang, hindi mo na rin kailangan ng church annulment.
Okay, now, what about the case of neglect? Kasi yun yung binabalikan lagi ng mga OFW na or even locally, there are people who or individuals who tell me, paano ba yan? I have my husband or my wife won't have sex with me anymore. They always talk about, not wanting to get pregnant or children or whatever. The husband doesn't perform his duty as a man, etc. And then, yung sabi mo nga, yung parang para na lang akong tuod dito sa bahay natin. You don't even give me the love. Pinapakain, binabahay, pero para ka lang katulong sa bahay.
If the circumstances are such that it is grave, kasi for a church annulment, maraming requirement. I'm sorry, for a nullity of marriage, yung legal annulment, maraming requirements, no. Kasi ang daming nagpapanggap, because it must be there's one requirement that it must be grievous. Yung in other words, minsan ka lang binugbog o ng asawa mo, ayoko na, hiwalayan na kita. No, that's not grievous. It must be repeated physical or domestic violence. No. Number 2, there must be irreconcilable differences. Ibig sabihin, wala nang pag-asa sa report.
Irreconcilable differences, sabi ko, pangsini lang yan eh.
Oo nga. Kasi, even if you file a case in court, Cito, the court will say, have earnest efforts at a compromise been made, no? Requirement of law yan. In fact, the other couple, the wife or the husband, who is the respondent, kasi merong mag-complain, merong petitioner or complainant, merong respondent, no? Pwedeng sabihin kung ayaw. Sometimes kasi nagpa-file ang mga lalaki kung may mistress sila ng annulment. Gumagawa ng storya na may infidelity yung asawa niya or bipolar, etc., etc. So as to make, and they make what they call they make a molehill a mountain. Kasi sa batas, not any cause of abuse or infidelity. It must be grievous and irreconcilable na ang differences, because even the court will say after you file, go to mediation. Now sometimes couples go through counseling, no? Because some people who come to me, some clients of mine who want to file annulment, I ask them, have you gone through counseling? Because sometimes when I listen to their story, they don't need the lawyer. They need a counselor to see if the differences are reconcilable.
Dapat pala sa akin mo pinadala.
Lahat ng ano sa iyo ko papadala. Baka you can mend the marriage. The other requirements ito, if I may, so I don't
Yeah.
forget, is there must be a history. May historical precedent. Like for instance, the husband is abusive because akala niya tama yun. Nakita niya nung bata siya na binubugbog ng tatay niya yung asawa niya. O nakikita niya yung tatay niya nung nagloloko. So it became norm for him na okay pala yun. Ano? So siya rin, nung nag-asawa siya, nang bubugbog siya, nang bababae siya because may historical antecedents in the past. No? So napakahirap talaga ng civil annulment. Kanya sabi ng marami mga kababaihan na let's have a no-fault divorce already. But that ship has sailed. No? Every time na lang may kongreso ay nagpa-file ng divorce, lagi naman although napapasa sa House, lagi naman napapasa sa Senate. There are other ways to sever a marriage, no? For instance, pwedeng pwede ka mag-change ng citizenship. Because if you're Filipino, some people either change citizenship or change religion. Kasi under Sharia law, di ba? Under Sharia.
Marami ako lang mga nag-Muslim o kaya nandoon na sa abroad, nag-citizenship, tapos nakakuha ng citizenship, iniwanan na yung mga pamilya.
No, that is the short way, because wag nating isipin na pwede niyo i-divorce yung asawa niyo. Pupunta kayo ng Las Vegas or pupunta kayo ng Hong Kong tapos magdi-divorce kayo, no? That is not valid. Isipin niyo, in civil law, your civil law follows you wherever you go. Parang backpack nga yan eh. So, kasi Filipino ka, Philippine law follows you wherever you go. Unless it is criminal laws, no? Because criminal laws are jurisdictional. The crime must happen in the Philippines. Pero civil law, you carry your status as married. Hindi pwedeng pupunta ka ng Hong Kong, nasa Hong Kong na ako, wala na akong asawa dito, pwede na ako mag-file ng divorce. Plus, other countries have residency requirement. No? You must be there. You must prove that you have been a resident of that state, etc., etc.
Okay.
So it's not that easy. Pwede rin isa na lang, pwede rin legal separation. Yung sinasabi
let's touch that, Tita Lorna. We'll just go for a quick break for a plug, and when we come back, let's talk about legal separation. Also, yung marriage to foreigner. Not representing my case. I am happily married, 35 years together, 28 years married. I am very happy. Pero kasi there are cases of Filipinas married to foreigners.
Correct.
And it's a problem, especially with the children. We'll go for a quick break. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Okay, as the great Dean Bakungan said, Sito, dapat naglo ka. Eh, ang problema, loko-loko ako nung ako ay estudyante, kanya hindi ako pumasa sa screening ng College of Law sa UP. Okay, but instead we have veteran lawyer Lorna Kapunan. Tita Lawrence, welcome back.
Happy to be back, Cito.
Okay, now, you were about to start on, was it legal separation you mentioned?
Yes, because another way to sever bed and board is legal separation. Now, the reason I say bed and board is, sa legal separation, asawa mo pa, there still is a marriage. What it really means is, you separation of bed and board, you're not required to consortium, no? Siyempre, pag may asawa, may consortium, may sex and all that. You're legally separated, wala nang ganyan. And then the property is also separated. Now, the reason it's called legal separation and not annulment is you remain married to each other. What happens lang is the obligation to live together as husband and wife is no longer there. And the properties are already divided, separated. What's yours is yours, what's mine is mine, for children are for the children. And in a legal separation, if you have a third party, let's say meron ka ng bagong mahal sa buhay, can you get married? The answer is no. And your spouse can even file a case against you for adultery or concubinage.
If you attempt a second marriage.
Even if you don't attempt, if you're living in sin, or you're in an adulterous relationship. Kasi may marriage pa Sito, ang hiniwalay mo lang yung property at saka yung obligation to live together as husband and wife. But you remain as husband and wife. So that's legal separation. Pwede kang filean ng
But what purpose does that serve? Parang, okay, sige, hiwalay kung hiwalay, pero hindi ka pala pwedeng sumama naman sa iba o sumapi sa ibang samahan.
Well, what it effectively provides is for separation of property.
Okay, yun lang. So in the absence of divorce, legal separation is an instrument that
to separate
a wife,
the property. Yeah.
Yun, okay. So nagkahiwalay na you've split up
Let's
the
say
property.
Nag-split na ng property pero the marriage is still there. Okay. Paano kung namatay ka, mag-i-inherit pa ba?
Oh.
The answer is yes. Kasi you are still the surviving spouse. That's why Sito, ang nangyayari, naririnig natin, hiwalay, matagal na silang hiwalay, 30 years, 20 years, ba't pa sila nag-file ng annulment when factually separated na sila or may legal separation na sila? Precisely because of inheritance rights.
Okay.
Whoever is the surviving spouse still inherits, miski na walang hiya yung asawa mo. Mag-i-inherit pa sa'yo. That's why kailangan Sito ng prenuptial agreement as an insurance. So that, there is the marriage, you cannot be assured that the marriage will last forever. So especially mga wealthy families, let's say mga mostly inherited properties yan, they have a prenuptial agreement which says that my property is mine, your property is yours, share na lang tayo sa expenses.
Okay, now I have to shift gears, Tita Lawrence, because we're going to run out of time. Quick questions lang. I know people who are in a multicultural or interracial marriage, or etc. And what are the things that Filipinos or foreigners should be aware of when getting into this partnership, and what are the common disasters that they seem to forget when they're in love?
Okay, let me say that I'm glad you asked the question because this is the only instance, Sito, where divorce is recognized in the Philippines. a situation where a Filipino is married to a foreigner and say that foreigner gets a divorce from the Filipino, then that divorce secured abroad is recognized under Philippine law. For the simple reason that you cannot be married, the Filipino spouse cannot be married to somebody who's no longer married to him or her. So ang gagawin lang nila, let's say nag-divorce yung foreigner na asawa, ang gagawin lang nila, hindi na sila kailangan mag-file ng annulment dito. All they need to file is a recognition of the foreign judgment of divorce. Yun ang court case na ipa-file nila dito so that the foreign divorce will be recognized in the Philippines.
Okay.
Now, what about just one
Yeah.
para hindi sila malito? Kailangan ba na yung foreigner ang mag-file?